Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening, and welcome to DIA's Readings in Contemporary Poetry series. My name is Megan Whitko, and I'm an assistant curator here at DIA, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to tonight's reading, which is our last reading in 2016. So I'm very pleased to welcome our two poets here for this evening's program, Adam Fitzgerald and Simone White. Thank you both for joining us and for so generously agreeing to be a part of the series. Readings in Contemporary Poetry is a part of the Sackler Institute at DIA Art Foundation, and we want to extend a very heartfelt thank you to Dominique Levy Gallery, who provides major support for this series. Additional support is provided by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, and additional support is provided by our media sponsor, the Brooklyn Rail. And we also, of course, want to thank the Brooklyn Brewery for the complimentary cold beverages this evening. And we're also deeply appreciative of assistance from all of DIA staff, including particularly Francesca, Max, Maria, and Mary Catherine. So I think I see some regulars here this evening, but in case you aren't, a brief outline of events. So following our first reader, we will have a 10-minute intermission before resuming with the second speaker of the evening. At that point, we have titles by both poets available for sale, as well as you're welcome to grab another beverage if you'd like. And following that, we'll do the second reading of the evening. So without any further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Vincent Katz, who will be introducing our first reader for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you all for coming tonight. Before I forget, I just want to mention, because I was talking to somebody who was not aware of this fact, that all the readings that occur here are archived on the DIA site. So if there's one that you have missed or that you just want to hear again, you can go there and find them all. I usually don't step back from my role as an introducer here, but I feel like this moment kind of requires it, this season that we're going into. So I felt like saying that this podium and this microphone are important because they're without restrictions. And one of the significant things about this series is that it stands for freedom of expression, and that is something that we always had to fight for, but now it's really under attack. So I wanted to highlight that, and also to say that I feel like a lot of us are really confused and derailed and not knowing which end is up. And I feel like poetry is always kind of a guide in those moments, and even things that I thought that's not going to be relevant anymore is seemingly more relevant now. So yeah, that's just basically what I wanted to say, that that's what we're here for. First reader tonight will be Adam Fitzgerald. Adam Fitzgerald received an MFA from Columbia University. His debut collection of poems, The Late Parade, was published by Liverite in 2013. His second collection, George Washington, also from Liverite, appeared earlier this year. Fitzgerald organizes the Home School, a biannual poetry and arts conference for poets. He teaches creative writing and literature at Rutgers University, the New School, and NYU. He lives in New York City. Adam Fitzgerald is prolific. His lines seem to race across the page, yet there is verbal density everywhere along the way. He is also restless. He loves form and yet is equally enamored of moving. One gets the sense he is impatient, not wanting to be tied down, and the reader, at least the contemporary urban identifying reader, probably shares Fitzgerald's impatience and is thus gratified by his changeability. Critics have focused on the detritus of contemporary life one finds in such recent Fitzgerald poems as The Remake, with its roll call of things and people that have come back: Jurassic Park, the Clintons and the Bushes, LL Cool J, Doc Martens, etc. And Eternal September, which is a list that mashes up kitsch, the blues, and critical theory, among other things. Then there's Here Comes the Hot Stepper, which begins, unlike my older brother, I generally enjoyed the 90s. But in my opinion, these details, important as they are not the main deal of Fitzgerald's poetry. He is not simply commenting on social dysfunctionality, and he is certainly not wallowing in the past or reimagining it as a golden age. Take a poem such as Big Data, which contains the lines, plywood dentures, ungulate, trinal outliers. Oceanic sensibilities edify and expunge crisp figments. Track layers shuffle. These lines, I would argue, are much more typical of Fitzgerald's modus operandi, i.e., his willingness to let language be his guide. His is an athletic thrusting, a phrase I once used to describe the poems of a very different poet, James Merrill. We tend to associate Fitzgerald's poetry with the New York school, and that is right, because those poets realized that silly-seeming wordscapes actually contain all seriousness, all glee, all joy, and all tragedy. No, we must not take Fitzgerald's poetry to be the result of simple bouts of observation or research. His is rather an adventure in poetry, and in it we can find not only Fitzgerald's own fantasies, interests, and hopes, but our own as well. Please join me in welcoming Adam Fitzgerald to DIA.
Thank you so much, Vincent, for those words. I want to believe they're all true. So I was just speaking to someone, a friend, and I was asking them how they were, and they were like, depressed and devastated like all of us. And I'm feeling pretty good tonight. And I feel like everything that's happening in this room, even though maybe nothing's happened yet, except your beautiful welcome, is enough. I feel like right now, everything here feels like enough. And it's so exciting to be able to read with you, Simone, because I haven't been shutting up about your book since I had the joy of reading it. And I'm a happy proselytizer of your work. And it means a lot to me. So I thought I would just read a few poems. I'm going to start by reading a new poem, read some poems from my book, and then just read a part of another new poem. And this is called Irish Lullaby. My proper writing font is missing. An evil fairy curtains purple. I sleep. The rain comes dry and hard like sprockets. The sun burns itself an asshole. The eye, moist, resolves. My sex like a mood of knives. I sleep. Yonder peacock soaks rum. Itchy children sicken, riddled with phlegmy lumps, cumic problems. We have become people, literally. I sleep. The mutt growls. The hipster rocks out with cock out. A pile of laundry slumping, Japan. I sleep. The token myth is white like fat. The otter totters to breakfast. Gruel slops, corrodes, glistens. The age of the voiceover is over. I sleep. The horse ninnies moan. The knee jerks. Taco Bell incorporates. Spillage lunges, luges. A large blue tarp ruffled like an heirloom tumor supply store. And you bring forth great wads of cloud dander, cloud stutter, meal replacement formals, please. I sleep. When the globe warms as the bottle brush tangles for dinky shingles, the Teflon toughs, the crotch slot gloms, and I sleep. But the brain may split, my dear, and the gore is cheap and flaccid love, the warped nipple plump, a meta-discourse's melted tits. I sleep. Who cares about your cubs? Who spots the till? Jill's a greasy spoon, Tom, Dick's Harry, Chotch to chode. Bring whomever their muffin top, I sleep. WD-40 glitters and muzzle fizzle. Fast food Polly cackles and flutters, the completest thought left alive. Like Flint on a roller carpet, runway derby, I sleep. Your moolah gravies, saints and perks, your crunches, cat memes, missing Bismarck, snack attacks. Many are made happy, yet more complain. Your vote matters, I sleep. This grouse locked in a lobe, and what about stately county clerk eyeing balls and the masquerade of Velveteen Hills by nauseated stadium, sleep? Join converted, persuaded, perverted, works as well with a pill, sleep. Omega deltoids attend me, this black as fuck depression, this arsenal of auto dehumanization, arsenic lies, pepper or onion safe into the canvas, plop. O tooth and plug, I sleep. Another statistical outrage, a small misplaced funereal prom, pom-pom with gashes for bunnies. I give them to you, tura lura lura. I do so promptly, henceforth, post haste. Feel free to wake me when I'm dead. I sleep. And now to go backwards and forwards simultaneously. I'm going to read some poems from my book, just 3 poems. This first one is called Our Lady of South Dakota. And it's a poem of mine I actually really like. So it's kind of fun to be able to share it with you. And someone who rejected the poem for publication told me that they didn't believe the poem because they didn't think that the person who wrote the poem would actually watch Roseanne reruns. But I wrote the poem. And I watched Roseanne reruns. Yeah. Our Lady of South Dakota. Our Lady of Allen, South Dakota, be with us. Our Lady of turquoise towers and water pumps, of dry barbiturate skies barreling over granaries, bucolic at the continental pole of inaccessibility. Our Lady of Brundage and Wounded Knee, pray for us. Average family income, $2,300. Our Lady of Tag Flats, think of us sometime. In Elmo, Montana, in McNary, Arizona, near Parmalee and Dunseth. Steer our grubby tykes through the promises of Sunday pay-per-view. Our Lady of Boys Town, weep for us in aisles bleaker than Walmarts and Bendlin and Muniz. Shampooers and fast food fryers, nanny aides and drivers work for greasy wads and zippered sheets stained with love. Our Lady of Delmar Heights, what's the dealio? Lady of Callio, Madonna of Uglala, Virgin of Las Lomas, Mother of White Rocks and Winslow West, scrunchies and lip gloss flake about your departing fleet. Glam metal, nourish us. Roseanne reruns, comfort us. Prairie casinos, protect us. I saw Our Lady in Spring Creek in North Hartwell, in La Rosita and Nagizi, by Lago and Lucochakai, looking bedraggled about the eyes. Her wrinkles tied in crow's feet, bellied by refrigerated mac and cheese, hair curler stiff, stinking of lye and Marlboro Reds, cleaning ranch condominiums littered with coolers of heavenly Coors Light. Our Lady of Sheep Springs, wrestling for friendly's blintzes. Our yellow-lipped, chubby-wristed mother, flowing in tie-dye muumuu, cucumber sundress, pebble-fisted, softly skirting along kiddie pools on unmown lawns and baby-shit peep-toe platforms, by handlebar streamers humping pay dirt. In Sawmill and La Puerta, bring Kool-Aid coupons and save us our White Castle Gallon-kind big slurps. Give ever your grist to the grits of highway rest stops. Our Lady of Wanblee, help rebuild the bleachers at Butterfield Regional Middle School, where the boys grope their camera phones in shadow, zit-stippled, molested by high-voltage power wires arching across aluminum meadows, steel ladies tackling clotheslines. Our Lady of Gentle Snowfall, mudslides, and indoor home plumbing. Our Lady of BuzzFeed and Tyler Perry. Our Lady of Pooper Scoopers and ketchup dispensaries. Our Lady of Skechers and Old Navy, of dental dams and grease trucks, of single mothers and closet cases, road rage and outlets, of trailer parks and cereal. Our Lady of Monday Night Football, Our Lady all about consumer confidence, RVs and veterans, be with us now. I love the Virgin Mary. This poem is called Ocean of Dick. And true story, I went to bed one night after reading a bunch of Kathy Acker's work. I think it was, I can see the cover. It was the little book she published called The Black Tarantula by the Black Tarantula. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like, I want to call a poem Ocean of Dick. And then I waited a while to find a poem that I could just, so this is it. Ocean of Dick. Questions remain about the sexuality of historical Jesus. Across abandoned lawns in South Detroit, kids chuck rocks, and over text one day, they says to the other, follow me. Imagine a sleepy college town on the Northeast. Iffy hetero guys, arguments about nostalgia in early gangsta rap, talks on Catherine Opie, Coles, the Hacker Revolution. Senator Nebuchadnezzar, Republican, Nevada, had dreams in the second year of his term and couldn't sleep. Thoughts of night visions thickening dumb sleep like a sword in your ribs. My subconscious wars even as my physical maleness remains like a chemical weapon to suppress and explore, like a sea of persons, rhythmic and integrated, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made. And entering the sepulchre, they saw a young man clothed in white, and they suffered great panic, and he said, be not afraid, he is risen, he is not here, behold the place where they laid him. Words drop from me like rubber snakes. I pull the sponge of so many pale dark flowers to my mouth, around my neck, sleeved into my thighs. Imagine them piled in heaps and heaps like the dead, gentle and limp. And I'm going to read this poem called 1776. Into impossible scarves, just let me start again. Got ahead of myself there. There's something really pleasing about this microphone. I'm getting all the reverb back at me, and so I'm kind of like high on my voice. 1776. Into impossible zones, smoke scarves naturally. Terrified itch bespoken by the stopgap's ear. It was another city there, buoyed towers hung down not so low as you. Weddings each time of year, Easter deer at Redgrove, but before this, an utterance. The puckered radish of Tuscaloosa. Had a car, drove many miles, some many miles before it driving itself. Wild mechanical ducks, patch tent. Resting at Yard Inn, the fence snakes a bit, wraps around melted mountains like a handshake ago, questions of blue ox. Meet me by it. Both irregular, the nocturnal shunt. Neo-adjuvant they watch, themselves recently former not past, pixelated cone people. He stepped to the plate with mercurial finery and goose sense in the invariant inclement, however. Stark lot items. A book opens. Morning. The story wrote. Who were we? Where were we about it? The end. Drifters drift, planetary in their passing. Weighted scales, volleys, middling barns, divestments, each fragmentary nation a nation. Each bale, hoof, cusp, pin enough. Herringed folks mopping the block while the rotation receives swerve. Black receipts. Is this it? Would you like it to be? To prefer the dense stoicism of night's anti-terrestrial crank, a kind that doesn't exist, but okay. I want things concrete, things in a green box, lake in the window, smoking rubbish fire, you just tables and plenty ruptured. No, the story a white road run off. Do you mean that you're hung up somewhere in variance? The mute chalk clock handling passengers, and 1776, my sci-fi romance? We need orchestration, parking lots, new ones. No, astropain, astrolight, astrosleep, sleep. This poem is called Elegy in a Courtyard Marriott. Palookaville no more. Do you know what we did with the beach balls? Never had them. But swimmies represented achievement in water breathing, much like on Turkey Day when floats lard the sky and a tumorous squirt gun orients us home. You make a metaphor of tan lines, garble grunge in garages where cobwebs nest and fizzle, leaves of diplomas straightening helmeted snow. The day ends by Dr. Dickering, corn puffs, blankets of soon and almost there. The real world's over. What's left are inalienable alloys, whiffing slippers, a society of donut fins that flutter around kiddie wheels espying germ hoods. Gassy roses that underline the existential sense that in the Grand Motel lobby of life, come cars come. If you could sing a little in my pants, we'd come back to the splintering point, take our slogan summer to its origin, a myth of Verizon and greeting cards, days of our lives. Inescapable trial, celebrity murder, your theory squiggles like a liver aloft, experiential, vectoring. What my green scum says is mute, consummate paranoia. But the lectern is brick and we toss it, they die, one at a time, a Danube of bureaus, lady parts, no nuts. Butter mounds of pancakes on the earth, so a family finds entertainment among its prolix warning labels, malformed neurons, the fat queen mattress of a burned-down house. But what difference does the white light make, humming in the house when the shades are drawn and death final? What difference these seascapes that trim white caps? I hold your hands the way a wig sleeps at night. And I'm just going to read two small parts of this longer poem that I'm working on and I haven't been able to finish yet. I sound so croaky, but hopefully sexy croaky. So this poem's called The Path, and I'm just going to read the opening stanza of it and the last stanza. The path. I wanted to go down the straight path, but I went awry in fields besides the straight path. That must have been the meaning or part of the meaning of the straight path. There were ordinary doorknob flowers, handlebar ceremonials, yet luckily the day, hiccups and stirrups blended back the way the sun will turn against itself, against October. But then I was back on the straight path, coursing over leather foam on the straight path, into the receptive muscles of my intention, with a book, gray, chalk, visible, like smoke in my hand, stood not so much as guide along the straight path, as a way of wandering on the straight path. When I couldn't, And the oatmeal clouds and daydream hoodlums, I invented them myself, schools of sleep and a bluish tinge of deep choral music on the straight path. They made up the registers of my temperance on the straight path. And I hadn't longed to speak a certain language on the straight path, or speak at all, but these gregarious bubbles of company bubbled from my mouth on the straight path. I bled into zones of foreign comics and commercial tears, and my friends, they would rent them out to one another before they fled on the straight path. Absconded into recesses of a seamless ripple, plastered in the riot squad of a nugget's bliss that happens to be yet another story I'm not telling you about the straight path. Why are you going? Why haven't you gotten anywhere? I wanted to wonder at the people who fell beside me along the straight path, interrupting my baby talk, but heroically I watched. I noticed the glistening orbits, the inspectors, the strident radon that arranges orange orbit on the straight path. Who are you to bother the bees, a rental car giant boasted on the straight path? And we took them seriously once upon a time in a garden, the viewing assembly, the ambidextrous delirium of the straight path. Look at that ship of fools with blood smudged about the barrels. Look at the bald rash of your thoughts making off with a phone. There were little resorts of hospitality on the straight path, and streams of charity, the nuns of crooked cognizance opening their bureau on the straight path. Thank God for them and their steeliness, the way a potion of even sure poison can you make it tremble with pleasure, the prior rictus of attention folding into attention, the way a friend beseeches you, opens a fold in their flesh, and you see only panels of light, gimlets of boredom and stuff like that bearing down on top of you by, yes, you guessed it, the straight path. And then 5 pages later, I'm so glad we got a chance to see each other. Forgive me for ducking out. I have the straight path. It props the attenuation of this gesture, its salience, the crossing of a sick person, no discernible age. There was a blanket I had put too much meaning into, the way you just the other day put too much weight down on not even the wrong foot. But we are bicameral after all, systole and diastole, a folly reliable as it is strenuous. And to think you, a dancer who gave it up in childhood, and me, a Sprite dispenser, still reading about fairies, intuiting this sleep that's queer enough for both of us, a camera maybe daydreaming, zooming out of focus, trailing along the rafters of a police station's Klieg lights, and these predatory side effects that leave me sadly aware of what has been, as it were, snipped off, cut off, zipped away. It doesn't feel worth being delicate about a life destroyed. And that wasn't their problem as they scuttled in the foyer and the meek, squalid dwelling of their desires, the life that steals away, but there's always a cameo left. There's still pistachio after dark for the idling ones, and a marching band in Paramus helps to cure cancer. The minor notches have coated this painterly posing. I was no longer healthy enough to be so judgmental. Generosity was spelt out in suspicious, unthought ways, and it was like seeing who I am, and I'm not even that. Thank you.
Simone White received her MFA from the New School. She is the author of House Envy of All the World from 2010, Unrest from 2013, and the collection of Being Dispersed, published by Future Poem Books earlier this year. She lives in New York, where she is program director at the Poetry Project. Simone White's poetry is rooted in various kinds of knowledge, but she never preaches from poetry's sacred pulpit. Rather, she allows, she intimates. She can also be upfront, in your face. It's just that details are subsumed into a larger flux, the flux of languages, ancient, contemporary, and beyond. Then I begin to hear the call of Los Angeles. The first piece in Of Being Dispersed is formal in 6-line stanzas. It seems as though it might be autobiographical. It refers to my husband, my papa, voices of the dead, which the narrator does not deal in, an old friend in West Hollywood. But it is the phraseology that starts to stick in one's memory. Quote, where dead Negroes can't get in your house. Los Angeles of the hidden garden, of the carved up starlet, acres of strange dick. And you come away in a multitude of places, not just Los Angeles, not just a poem, not just biography, not just. I love White's love of the instrument, this thing we are all using daily, contributing to in different ways at different times. She continually traces, one wants to say caresses, words from Greek, Latin, French, to English, to American. Of course, the dispersed of her title comes from the Greek word diaspora, and there is a deep humanity beneath the humor and occasional bile these texts embody. There's a bright contemporaneity to White's poetry, and every word has specific weight. Her poetry is pointed and round, and it is for our time. Please join me in welcoming Simone White to DIA.
Thanks so much. John, can you hear me? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to read just a little bit from Of Being Dispersed, and then I'm going to read mostly newer work, which isn't collected anywhere, but sometimes I read around. This poem's called Was Old Lion or On the Camino Trail, and it's about my cat, but it's also about my sister. Lourdes loves a tight, high box, a falsetto word, costs very little, is almost free. Lourdes cannot imagine what to do with black leather pants that cost what she costs for 4 or 5 years. That is for one pair. Lourdes doesn't care that another person could put them on, but they wouldn't fit. Cat Power's pubes would stand up out of these pants if Richard Avedon were to photograph her from the grave one day. It's raw to have no hobbies except chasing objects small enough to pick up and carry in your mouth. Adorno says it is not bourgeois. It is never all that clear whether Adorno is cursing a thing or what, but Lourdes can never be bourgeois or want pants. The form of our togetherness forbids her from spending money. Getting anything, getting freedom or pants, costs money. Lourdes reminds me of the Pilgrims. Gloriana was dead. A generation of her people sagged into the grave before the action began, perished on the rocks before the evolutionary whoosh of fleet violence. It was Lourdes or them. Choose Lourdes. To worship, to smooth over wrinkles, to light candles, to stroke, to be unable to separate, to walk without water toward, to faint, to be falsely pregnant and immured, to bite and be bled, to be straitjacketed, to sanctify, to accidentally kill with fire, to make rich, to confound these predators. All this from Lourdes, to her miracle as alleged icon of late maturity. Perspicacious beyond health, all things are effortless. You milk the baby, it is effortless. Your choices are beautiful. You have read everything. Let this be the reason you go without Dietjen's vacations. Repetitive motions swept along by the overtures of the injurious dance workshop. This is no one's fault. It's not my pussy's fault, nor yours. It's deep February. You are not depressed. Primary is new to you, primary red. A soft and suckable red mushroom reminds you of a nasty wen or a witch bauble for striking on black rocks. Maybe the dancers will bust their wrists. How careless and cheap their twirling appears from this vantage. White like the crystal Stacy has promised me. The mind grows light, invisible ice. So I'm going to read this series of poems that begin with this poem, Motherhood is a State of Hypervigilance, which then connects to this other longish poem called Messenger, and I'll just read straight through. Motherhood is a state of hypervigilance. Open arms gathering all so wide to hold everyone horizontally growing this way, flat in this way, capturing each pellet, stream, danger, failure to possess, holding what cannot be held, natural, weightless impact of pressure in tons, separate, prostrate time, the weather of whales, appetites, a thin sliver of wax or wood between one time and another. What is the impact between one time and another? More time and more succeeding separations, caroling, he is coming. The first day. Child, break the metal field of bared teeth and cold seconds, all between. You, your grip of difference. You are the lip of unknown. Come through the end of no longer or not. Child, unwill. Your eventful violence is time, myself. The dark wing flutter, bare brush. Surgical knife over which your power to make everything a kind of cold meat for your enjoyment. Here to bear all difference. The opening you make in time, it is small matter. He is the other world come through me, toward profuse starlings, most profound misreading of the words, splinter, spectra. Toward, he is unable to seize hold of himself as a whole. I am to serve toward and am toward then. State. It is a fish, it is a whale. The only food I have eaten is from the floor, as not from the floor. The wicked carport, it is hell, it is hopscotch. It is a gash, it is forever falling on your right knee. It is smooth, it is white and glossy with pure, bright blood. It shines on the lip of a milk-sated infant, soft like a kitten. White kitten, soft baby. It is a fish, it is a whale, it is cold, it wants to be touched. Like you, it is soft, you cannot imagine. Imagine, I am saying, do it. Fish, whale, ship. Caducity, the falseness of TV, the food I could still eat in Casablanca. It is a truck, it is a grain, it is a fish, it is a whale, it is a garbage truck. The only word I know is garbage, ice cream, gorilla. You are baby, the fish, the whale, the skylark. You, 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 you. You, 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 you have, it is the naturalized beast, the scar. We are, it is soft. Do it. I'm telling you. I announce, it is. We are here to slow time. We are here to slow time to break over us, not considering so much making poems, but where poems come from. Equilibrations. Create a space that escaped the grasp of power and its laws without entering into conflict with them, yet rendering them inoperative. Come here, angel. This is the center of time. Time's backwater, her kerchief, her bilge. Come here. Register emergency. Stand here, angel. Her dust, her wind of politics vented fire, ventricle left, other cracked ore. We are in that sea. Having been the arch mouth, having been the blank through which the demon of circles might enter. What if my own being broken is a new law? Angel, I am dust. Cover me, velvet, air, blue. It is not light. It is not invisibility. It is space. It is visitation. Promises a field. One gathers or arranges the scope of unkept promises, partly a function of memory, partly a function of organic remaining. I stay, therefore I remember what has not come to pass, what drags, remains, is remaining. The field is a field of action, and it is a field of smoke. To arrange is nothing, arranged nothing. Promises, radiant formations of intuited nothing, each a sluice, every other threatens to drown. Take the open space, the field. What has occurred also nothing, as between two others, incomparable between event at all times. Perhaps there is another sun, for these gravities are evidence of unlikeness, distracting solutions presented by physical laws. From these, nothing cannot be derived, nor the field, nor promises, nor the coming flood of what can be called smoke, what is blown by the things that are not light between us. Us is a metaphor for nothing, for remaining in this nothing, which is a category of absolute destruction, absolute despair, absolute possibility. Take that space, not position. So this is messenger. Prepare, no night creature, accidental enemy. Encounters return to us in witch cradles, monsters by a hair's breadth. These are works melted, no accident. These fires, these crashes capitulate to what is meant by the past as a whole. Melt, fall back into accomplishment, the grasp of who prepares to give the message. The side is excruciating. We find him there pained, not knowing. And the curt blast come to him as a side, as from the original side, ripped from the first man, eaten by the merciless blank. I find your cries ridiculous. The side is all magma. It is where we are taken to get what is coming. In the middle of our conversation, the phone rang. It was you from the other side. I rang through. It was you calling from the other side. I staggered. It was you laughing. You were interrupting the progress of our conversation. You were laughing. There was thus no middle. There was the connection which loomed in its oddness, being duplicated in all the realities where it was taking place. The laughter was warm. It reminded me of body heat. It was pure energy. It was you from the other side ringing through. It was you pressing your finger to the hollow of my throat. Processing, the summation of all things that transpire, all dust, not equally black rocks, diamonds whirling afloat, synthy lag, not the organic wave. That is a thing to resemble absurdly, taking the form of what it is not, for it is never the water. It is never the sound, it is never the light. Gruesome Nosferatu spreads its claw over the light. Its spine curves, that wave, misshapen, jealous, curled Saturday, my synths piteously, not yet messenger. These are works now being merciless, being crushed as a matter of criticism into nonspecific talk of waves, the little irresponsible petals. Those snares when trap music got hot, the illusion of bending the strings or processing. At the sight of the miraculous, the idea was to rebuild that sound on the synths, to recapitulate the past, happening inside the body of deliverance, pull the field into what's still, what suffers future arrivals. This nowness I inhabit is a gift. I am the woman of your first maturity. It was a woman, it was a child with the sex of a man. She spoke the words of the dead, gusts. Her black lips closed. I crouched. We cannot write. Your night messages fucked me up. You arrested discovery of any kind. Your body's nearness interrupts all dreaming. The woman was loud. She was impossible to hear without opening the possibility of hearing at the event of its first uncurling, in the clenched ear of a wet newborn, the form that instructs us in hearing's plasticity, sculptural ear of time. It's, her, the woman's voice, broke over the figures. She kept repeating, I am the woman, to the figures differentiating digitally in the dark of her making. At once, projections of the arch joke of human dwelling together in this nothing, and provocations the messenger seethed, artless servant of this place. The messenger addresses the mother with no mate, the mother who panics, the mother who watches the others with dread and wonder, the careless pleasure of other mothers in the presence of their children, the hours spent in fear. The isolation of motherhood, the metempsychotic deprivation of sleep. Nothing you have is yours, not even deposits of fat. You are the nothing toward which the man nods in acknowledgement of your motherhood, which is grand, which is prostration, which is the deactivation of all known powers, which is the evacuation of power you share in the speechless condition of your baby. Speech rushes, you freeze in the weakness of joint potentiality. You cannot share, yet you share. You have no faith, yet you must have faith. This is a test. This is not a test. Everything that was has been evacuated in your arms. Someone has fainted. Someone's got a mote in her eye. Someone's pricked by the messenger. Hunter. We cannot write if time stops. All the industrial deviltry, clockwork such as normal, proves nothing. Barbarians, curatorial possibilities, involving depth, involving cutting tools, the mighty, magic, death's opposite, these are losses, flashing intimately courtside, wealth and black excellence taking place as a magnitude of economic pornography. Ceaseless Negro apocalypse. It never comes. I feel like that's enough. That's enough. Thank you.